Have you ever noticed that after 50, your brain simply doesn't work the way it used to? Not that you've become less intelligent. No, that's not it at all. It's speed, or rather the absence of it. You walk into a room and forget why you came there. You start telling a story and lose the thread mid-sentence. You read a paragraph and realize you haven't absorbed a single word. And the most unpleasant part, that sensation of a delay between your thought and your action, as if your brain is operating in slow motion. Most people pause at this moment and tell themselves, well, that's normal. I'm not 25 anymore. But here's the catch. Precisely at this moment, when you resign yourself to it, the most dangerous process begins. Because you stop looking for the cause. But the cause exists, and it's nowhere near where you think it is. I'm going to tell you something you probably didn't expect to hear. Your memory might not be suffering because your brain is aging. Your memory might be suffering because your gut is poisoning you. Yes, you read that correctly. Your gut, not your brain, your gut. And before you close this video and think I've lost my mind, give me 2 minutes to explain how this works. Because if you watch this video to the end, you'll begin to see your symptoms in an entirely different light. You'll understand why your memory is deteriorating, why you feel exhausted after eating, why you experience mood swings. And most importantly, you'll understand that this isn't inevitable. It's not simply age. It's a process that can be stopped. But first, we need to understand the mechanism. Let's start with what you've probably noticed in yourself. You eat lunch. 20 to 30 minutes later, a wave of exhaustion washes over you. Not just tiredness, complete depletion. You want to sleep. You want to lie down and never get up. Or here's another scenario. You eat something sweet. At first, you feel a surge of energy, mental clarity. But an hour later, it's gone. And in its place comes irritability, brain fog, and inability to concentrate. Or a third variation, your stomach bloats periodically. You feel heaviness. Sometimes you have digestive issues. Constipation one day, diarrhea the next. You chalk it up to a sensitive stomach and move on. Most people never connect these things together. Bloating is one thing. Post-meal exhaustion is another. Memory problems are a third. 3 separate problems, 3 different doctors, 3 different diagnoses. But here's where the error lies. These aren't 3 separate problems. They're a single process manifesting differently depending on where it's most pronounced. Let me explain what's happening inside your body. Imagine your gut isn't simply a tube through which food passes. It's an entire ecosystem, a living, breathing, functioning system. In your gut lives approximately 2.5 kilograms of microorganisms. These aren't parasites. They aren't enemies. They're your allies. They're called your microbiome. When your microbiome is healthy, it performs several critically important functions. First, it protects the lining of your gut. Think of the intestinal wall as a border between the outside world and your bloodstream. A healthy microbiome creates a protective layer that prevents harmful substances from penetrating your blood. Second, a healthy microbiome helps you digest food. It produces enzymes that break down what you eat into substances your body can actually absorb. Third, and this is crucial, a healthy microbiome produces vitamins. B vitamins, vitamin K, and numerous other substances necessary for your brain, your nerves, your immune system. But what happens when your microbiome becomes disrupted? When your microbiome is disrupted, everything flips upside down. Microbiome disruption typically begins with one or several factors. Antibiotics. Have you taken antibiotics? Of course you have. Everyone has. Antibiotics kill bacteria. But they don't kill only harmful bacteria. They kill beneficial ones too. Every course of antibiotics is like a fire in your ecosystem. Beneficial bacteria perish. Harmful ones, fungi, pathogenic bacteria, they survive and begin to proliferate. Poor nutrition, refined carbohydrates, sugar, processed food. All of this feeds harmful microorganisms, especially fungi. Fungi love sugar. Every slice of bread, every spoonful of sugar is food for them. Chronic stress. Chronic stress disrupts your microbiome balance. This is a scientific fact. Sleep deprivation. When you don't sleep enough, your microbiome suffers. When these factors accumulate, your microbiome degrades. Beneficial bacteria become fewer. Harmful ones become more numerous. And then something fascinating happens. Harmful microorganisms, especially fungi, begin producing toxins. One of the most dangerous toxins is alcohol. Yes, you read that correctly. Alcohol. Fungi in your gut feed on carbohydrates and produce alcohol. Your own gut becomes a miniature brewery. Every time you eat bread, pasta, sugar, you're feeding this alcohol-producing factory. This alcohol is absorbed into your bloodstream, and in your liver, it transforms into an even more toxic substance, acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is poison. It damages your liver, kidneys, nervous system, and most importantly for us, it damages your brain. But that's only one toxin. There are others. Clostridia, bacteria that produce neurotoxins, substances that specifically affect the nervous system. They slow its function. They disrupt signal transmission between neurons. There are other substances too, glutenomorphins, casomorphins, that arise from improper digestion of gluten and casein. These substances have a structure similar to opiates. They affect the brain like drugs. All these toxins are absorbed through the damaged intestinal wall into the bloodstream, and the blood carries them throughout your body, including to your brain. Here's another crucial thing to understand. When your microbiome is disrupted, your intestinal wall becomes permeable. This is called leaky gut. Imagine your intestinal wall as a fence. When the fence is in good condition, it allows only what's needed through. Nutrients pass through it into the bloodstream. Harmful substances stay outside. But when your microbiome is disrupted, the fence falls apart. Holes appear. And through these holes, substances that shouldn't be there begin entering your bloodstream. Undigested food particles, toxins from harmful bacteria, the harmful bacteria themselves. Your immune system sees this and raises an alarm. It begins attacking. Inflammation develops. But this isn't acute inflammation that you feel. It's chronic, low-level inflammation. It persists constantly, day after day, month after month, year after year. And this inflammation spreads throughout your body, including to your brain. Now imagine what's happening to your brain. Your brain is the most sensitive organ in your body. It consumes enormous amounts of energy. It requires constant supply of oxygen, nutrients, vitamins, minerals. And at this very moment, when your brain needs clean, healthy blood, toxins begin entering your bloodstream. Alcohol, acetaldehyde, neurotoxins, inflammatory molecules. Your brain tries to function under these conditions. But it's like trying to think clearly in a room filled with smoke. At first, this manifests as slight slowness. You need more time to recall a word. You need more time to process information. Then it becomes more pronounced. You forget why you walked into a room. You lose the thread of conversation. You can't focus on a single task for more than a few minutes. Then it becomes even worse. You feel constant fog. You're irritable. You're depressed. You're anxious. And all this time you think it's simply age, that it's normal, that nothing can be done. But that's not true. Let's return to what you're eating. Remember I mentioned that fungi in your gut produce alcohol? This means that every time you eat carbohydrates, especially refined carbohydrates, sugar, bread, pasta, you're making the problem worse. You're feeding the fungi. They produce more alcohol. The alcohol enters your bloodstream. Your brain receives even more toxins. That's why you feel exhausted after eating. That's why you experience mood swings. That's why your memory becomes worse. It's not coincidence. It's direct cause and effect. And here's what's interesting. Most people try to treat this problem incorrectly. They go to a doctor and say, I have memory problems. The doctor prescribes vitamins, or nootropics, or some brain-boosting supplements. But it's like trying to clean a smoke-filled room without opening the window. The source of the problem remains untouched. There's another aspect that's often overlooked. When your microbiome is disrupted, you don't just receive toxins. You also lose the ability to absorb nutrients. A healthy microbiome produces B vitamins, vitamin K, numerous other substances your brain needs. When your microbiome is disrupted, this production stops. Simultaneously, the damaged intestinal wall cannot properly absorb nutrients from food. Result, you become depleted, even if you're eating enough. You might take vitamins, but they're not being absorbed properly. You might eat healthy food, but your body can't digest it correctly. This creates a vicious cycle. Vitamin and mineral deficiencies further impair brain function. Magnesium deficiency, and you can't relax, you have insomnia. B vitamin deficiency, and your nervous system can't function properly. Iron deficiency, and your brain doesn't receive enough oxygen. Let me tell you about someone I know. He was 58 years old, a successful businessman, always in good shape, never complained about his health. But about 3 years ago, he started noticing strange things. At first, it was just exhaustion. He'd come home from work and collapse on the couch. Couldn't do anything. Then he noticed his memory was getting worse. He'd forget names of people he'd known for years. He'd forget what was discussed in meetings. Then digestive problems appeared. Bloating, unstable bowel movements, abdominal pain. He went to doctors. They ran tests, found nothing. Everything's normal, they said. It's just age. But he knew something was wrong. When we started digging deeper, it turned out he had serious dysbiosis. His microbiome was completely destroyed. Years of poor nutrition, several courses of antibiotics, chronic stress, poor sleep. All of this together created the perfect storm. His gut was full of harmful fungi and bacteria. His intestinal wall was damaged. Toxins were constantly entering his bloodstream and brain. That's why he felt so terrible. Here's what's interesting. If you go to a neurologist complaining about memory, they'll look for the problem in your brain and nervous system. If you go to a gastroenterologist complaining about bloating, they'll look for the problem in your gut. If you go to a psychiatrist complaining about depression, they'll look for the problem in brain chemistry. But no one sees the connection between all these things. Because modern medicine operates on the principle of specialization. Each doctor looks at their organ, their system. But your body isn't a collection of separate parts. It's a unified system. And when one part of the system breaks down, it affects everything else. Your gut affects your brain affects your immune system affects your gut. It's a closed loop. And if you want to solve the problem, you have to look at the entire system. You might ask, why does this start happening precisely after 50? The answer is simple. Because by 50, most people have already accumulated enough, quote, damage. Years of poor nutrition, several courses of antibiotics, stress, poor sleep, sedentary lifestyle. All of this gradually destroys your microbiome. But your body has reserves. It can compensate for problems for a while. But at some point, those reserves run out. And then the symptoms become noticeable. This doesn't mean the problem started at 50. The problem started much earlier. It's just that now it's serious enough for you to notice. Most people, when they notice memory problems, make the same mistake. They try to, quote, treat their brain. They buy memory supplements. They play brain training games. They read books about improving concentration. But all of this is like trying to clean a smoke-filled room without opening the window. The source of the problem remains untouched. Their gut continues producing toxins. Their microbiome continues being destroyed. Their intestinal wall continues being damaged. And the stream of toxins to the brain continues. That's why no brain supplements help. Because the problem isn't in your brain. The problem is in your gut. But here's the good news. It's reversible. Your brain isn't a fragile organ. It's highly adaptive. It can recover. If you stop the stream of toxins to your brain, if you restore a healthy microbiome, if you start eating properly and sleeping well, your brain will begin recovering. Not in a day, not in a week, but it will happen. I've seen people who felt they were losing themselves, who thought it was the end, who believed they were destined for dementia or Alzheimer's, and they regained mental clarity. They regained their memory. They regained their energy because they solved the problem at its source. Not in the brain, but in the gut. Let's return to the symptoms I mentioned at the beginning. If you have exhaustion after eating, bloating, unstable bowel movements, cravings for sweets, concentration problems, forgetfulness, mood swings, irritability. These aren't three separate problems. They're a single process. It's your gut poisoning your brain. And it means you need to act. Not tomorrow, not next month. Now, because every day you do nothing, the process continues. Now you know what the problem is. You know why your memory is deteriorating. You know it's not simply age. But you're probably asking yourself, okay, so what do I do? And that's an excellent question, because knowing the problem is only half the battle. The second half is the solution. And in the next video, I'll show you exactly what to do. I'll show you how to restore a healthy microbiome, how to heal the damaged intestinal wall, how to stop the stream of toxins to your brain, how to regain mental clarity, energy, and memory. But it's not just a list of supplements or a diet. It's a specific protocol, a step-by-step plan that works. I've seen it work on hundreds of people, and I want it to work for you too. But before you go, I want you to do one thing. Look at yourself, honestly. Do you recognize yourself in what I've described? Do you have these symptoms? If yes, write in the comments, "This is me." I read the comments, and I want to know how many people recognize themselves in this video, because it matters. It means you're not alone, that this isn't just your problem. It's the problem of millions of people, and it's a problem that can be solved. Subscribe to the channel if you want to know how to solve it, because in the next video, I'll give you a concrete action plan. And I promise you, if you follow this plan, your life will change. Your memory will return. Your energy will return. Your mental clarity will return. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.